Good evening, everyone. Good evening. It's great to see such a large crowd here on a very cold December night. Thank you for coming. My name is Nicholas Manousis. I am the Executive Director of the Horological Society of New York, and it's my pleasure to welcome you here to the last meeting of 2024. And as usual, let's get started with a few announcements. An education update, we have our New York evening and weekend classes posted for the month of December. So we've got Horology 101, 102, 103, and 104 all being offered upstairs in our classroom. You'll see the schedule here on the slides, and you can also book a class on our website. So please feel free to book a class. We just expanded our classroom to seat 8 students, which is really nice. Come in and give us a visit sometime, take a class. They're a lot of fun. And of course, our 159th anniversary gala is coming up on Saturday, March 22nd, 2025. Tickets are now available, and tickets are going fast. We made the big decision to move from the Harvard Club, which is directly across the street from us right now, uptown to the plaza so that we could accommodate a bigger crowd. So we're really looking forward to the gala coming up in March of next year. The plaza is a beautiful historic venue, and it can hold about 500 people. So we're looking forward to a really wonderful evening at the gala. If you haven't been to one before, it's kind of one of these fun New York traditions. Everyone gets dressed up, tuxedos and evening gowns, and we raise a lot of money for a very good cause, and that cause is watchmaking education. It's also the night that we give out all of our scholarships to watchmaking students. So please check it out. All the details are on our website, and tickets are now available. And we're coming up to the final days of our 2024 exhibit, which is the evolution of Seiko and Grand Seiko, and it's going to be running through December 20th, 2024. This exhibit is just absolutely fascinating. The history that is involved with Seiko and Grand Seiko takes you in all sorts of different directions, makes you think about the nature of time, I'd say. Maybe if you get that little pun there. And I think I just saw Joe Kirk. Did Joe just walk in? Is Joe here somewhere? Hey, Joe, how you doing? Nice to see you too, Joe. So absolutely recommended. Please come and check out this exhibit through the final days. We're going to be closing it on December 20th. And our HSNY holiday shop, just a quick teaser. We have some new items coming soon. We're going to be announcing them very soon, so check your email. Check your inbox. We're going to have some exciting new things to choose from. Okay, on to the main event. On to the main event for tonight. Tonight, we're going to be talking all about the escapement, right? But we're going to be going beyond the tick, and we're going to be talking about mastering the art of escapements. And there's no one better to do that than our special guest for this evening. He's come all the way from Switzerland to speak with us tonight. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Bernhard Lederer, master watchmaker and founder of Lederer Timepieces.
Yes, thank you for welcoming me. Directly to the beginning, I want to excuse. In school, my teacher said, never ever I will survive in an English-speaking country. I hope that, however, you will understand what I'm talking about today. And if I don't pronounce some words correctly, please excuse, but I prefer to make it in English and not in German, what I'm mastering really good. And so I hope, however, you will enjoy the evening. Well, as it was told, we will talk about escapements, and therefore allow me just to bring everybody to the same level of knowledge. So I make a very, very short, clear point. Escapements we separate in different classes. We have the class of the friction rest escapements, and we have the free escapements. This is when we talk about pocket watches and wrist watches. So the friction rest escapements very soon had been sorted out, those like the cylinder escapement or like the duplex escapement, because of the permanent friction during the swing of the balance, and this is influencing the balance and therefore the accuracy of the timekeeping. And they had been replaced by what we call the free escapements, and the free escapements are very well known, like the Swiss anchor, the Swiss lever, the racket, and things like that. And they beat it out very, very early already, the friction rest escapements. Also in the free escapements, we have two classes. We have the so-called indirect impulse escapements and the direct impulse escapements. What we see here in the Swiss lever escapement, that is an indirect impulse escapement. So that means that the impulse who comes from the escape wheel is not giving directly to the balance, but through, in that case, through the anchor as an intermediaire. So the other class is the class of the direct escapements, and these are all sort of chronometer escapements. And the chronometer escapements, very soon they showed up that they are much more superior in accuracy than all other escapements known at that time. Today we know a little bit more. There are other escapements that are superior to chronometer escapements, but at that time that was really the best of the best. But as everything in life, of course you have also the other side of the coin, and there is a negative aspect on those chronometer escapements. They are very sensible on shocks, and they are not self-starting. So the problem of those chronometer escapements, and we will look today to all the chronometer escapements, is the point that you had to find a way to overcome the difficulty of shock that very quickly was invented by the so-called pivoted detent escapements, because those detents, when they are pivoted, you can balance them so that the shock is not influencing and not giving an unexpected liberation of the system. The bigger problem in those systems, however, is the fact that they are not self-starting. That seems to be not a big problem, because just you swing it on, so then all is running fine. So why should that be a problem? The reason is here very easy to explain as well. When you give a little bit too much swing to the system, it can, what we call the overcoil. It can make more than 360 degrees and pass twice the system. And as you know, a balance always wants to keep the right rhythm. So when you have to make the double distance in the same time, you have to be very speed. And this is where it is so difficult and so dangerous for a chronometer escapement, that it can overcoil, because that speed is too high for the whole system. It starts to not function anymore. It gets fails triggering. The escape wheel is liberated at the wrong moment, is not giving the energy to the balance anymore, but the balance wheel is running against the locking stone of the detent. And you can compare it a little bit like when you are in the car and you drive against a car what is in front of you, what has approximately the same speed, there will be no damage. If you make the very same speed but you drive against a wall, the damage for sure will be different. So that is what happens when you have the overcoil and the tiny little tips of the escape wheel tooth are falling down, jumping against the locking stone. They will deform, and then the system will not work anymore. So that was the big question where we had to find a solution. And now you have to give me a minute, because I was now talking freely, not following my script, and I have to find myself back in my script. Just 1 second. Yeah, so as I said, the point was that you had to take care that you must not swing on your watch that has a chronometer escapement. So they made a lot of trials, they tried many things, and many ideas had been developed, but there was no real solution that was invented to this problem in the time of Brügge. But consequently, they had the idea, if they show that the watch is short before running down from the power reserve, you have to wind it up, and then you avoid that the watch will come to a stop and would need a new swing. And that is why the power reserve indicators found their way into watchmaking. So the moment when the power reserve indication had been invented and introduced to the watches, that was the moment when the sea chronometers started their high time, and every ship had been equipped with one of those instruments. Well, based on the importance of this development, you know that those who invented the chronometers had been those who started to rule the world. They built up the Commonwealth simply because they had the ships that could safely navigate. So it was very, very important also for history, for the development of the country and of the Commonwealth, all the other countries who followed them. And based on that importance, everyone who could afford now wanted to have such kind of watch. He wanted to be on the level like the big explorers. Therefore, all the great watchmakers of that time, they started to search for a system how to make the chronometer escapement working, fitting into a pocket watch. There was one guy who promised that he would be able to do so. His name was Abraham Louis Brügge. And he spoke and he promised that he has the best. He has even the natural escapement. And he called it the natural escapement because he said it corresponds to nature. It is so perfect, it even does not need oil. So what else you want to have? So he went and sold these watches, and then he started to build them, and that was, I guess, one of his commercially very intelligent ways to make subscriptions and to sell the product before making it. But in that case, I think it was a quite bad decision, because when he had sold the first watches, started to produce them, he found out that his idea is not working. So, maybe you have seen pictures of his invention. There we had the slides for what I talked already about. Voilà, that is the invention. This is the idea of Brügge. And we have here, even if it's not so easy to see, we have here two chronometer escapements. They are mirrored one against the other. And what I try that now with the pointer, what you see here on the left side on this image, there you see the system what remembers you to the safety roller, to the fork and the safety pin of all lever escapements. So he had the idea, if he may place two chronometer escapements mirrored to each other, he can, the detent, equip with a safety roller with the safety pin and therefore avoid fails triggering. And he thought that as they will work in alternation, he will get it even self-starting. So the little problem what he had to solve was here, when let me see again the pointer. Voila. When we see here the triangle locking stone, who is now blocking the wheel on the right side, the moment when the balance is turning, the whole detent will switch to the side, the escape wheel will make its work, but then it has to be stopped again after making the work. And what you can see here, a normal detent is jumping back. Here the detent is placed to the other side. So he had to find a way to stop the wheel on the right side the moment when it had made the transmission of energy. And his idea was that it's very easy to solve that problem. He only must couple the two wheels together by putting two additional toothed wheels, what you see here just as an outline under the two escape wheels. So this idea by just the function itself is absolutely correct and working perfectly. But what he found out is that there, however, must be another problem, because he realized that when he built it in, the efficiency was not there. So what happened is that he had a good idea without reflecting about the physics laws. The physics laws here tell you when you have to accelerate one wheel, you need one energy. If now in that case suddenly you have four wheels, of course you need 4 times the energy. And this he did not respect. But that's not all, and this I would like to show you in a little animation where it's much more easy to explain what happened. So what we can see here is how they work together. And now when we animate it, you see due to the mass of 4 wheels, the whole system needs a lot of time to accelerate and to reach out the impulse-taking pallet. So he's losing a lot of way, then has a little way of contact, and the whole rest, what is lined here with the 2 lines, he is losing because it is given to the other wheel, what is then making the other swing. So the difficulty of Breguet was that he not only needed 4 times the energy, he also put it to 50% the way where he can transmit the energy. So if you make the mathematics, he needs 4 times the energy and would need the double, so he failed by 8 times the efficiency of a single normal chronometer escapement. So just imagine you are Breguet and you are going now to the clientele with that knowledge and try to sell a watch. What is the most expensive? You tell it it's the best, it's the natural escapement. And it's so fantastic that you have to stand up 4 times the night to wind up your watch. So that was the difficulty what he had. And you can see that he realized it because those watches who he made later on with the Escapements naturels, so the last ones before he passed away, the second wheel is much more smaller in order to avoid the mass to be accelerated. But the main problem, the linking of 2 wheels, this he never understood that this is the main problem. But he is not alone out there. What is so interesting in this escapement is that also when I learned Watchmaker and saw the first time and read about his escapement, I was completely fascinated. There is something in this idea that is so strong that you find it, everybody knows it, you find it in Kari-Voutilainen, you find it in Laurent Ferrier, you find it with François Paul Journe. They all, and there's an American, I just learned his name, Donald Locke. Everybody tried to make the Escapements naturels working. And there are different ways where those people tried to do that. They took extremely light materials, so that is nice. You get it working, but we may not forget, if I take 4 wheels from an ultralight material, they are always 4 times more heavy than one wheel from the same material. So the other way is that you can reduce the number of teeth on the escape wheel. That widens you the space between the teeth, so you can dig deeper into that space. It gives you more space, so more contact possible to transmit the energy. But that, again, it means that you need another gear ratio to compensate that you have less teeth now on the escape wheel. Also, with this solution, you don't overcome the problem of Breguet, and you can name it however you want. It has nothing to do with an optimal chronometer, or as the French call it, the chronomètre optimum, as one of those trials had been christened. What I tell here is not to criticize anyone, but I like all those efforts, and it's beautiful to see how many people are going and are interested. And if I look here, I never expected so many people interested in escapements. Thank you for showing that there is an interest. And all I tell here is to those people how they could approach these themes. They are very complex, and therefore I want them to go slowly, step by step, with a very clear and simple logic that helps you to avoid frustration and avoid dead-end roads. Who avoided dead-end road? This was Georges Daniels, already in 1976. He mapped out a real solution for this problem. He is the one who had the right idea how to overcome Breguet's Gordian knot. As I said, break down with small, thin slices. He broke down the idea of two alternately operating chronometer escapements into the condition to be fulfilled step by step, so that each individual step could be considered on its own. Voilà, this is the solution of Georges Daniels. If we look to his design, we can again see that against fail triggering, he put it here on top. You see very clearly the system as you find it in each and every Swiss lever or British lever escapement. So he took the safety pin, the ellipse, the fork, and therefore he made it safe, as did already Breguet. The idea of Daniels went into the synchronization of the two wheels. So this is where he really had the most important idea. That is where he made the big step forward, allowing him to separate the two wheels from each other. He had the idea to continue. Here you have the pivot of the detent, and he prolonged it down here to a locking stone and down here to a second locking stone. So the moment when the detent is turned to the right, as we see it here, that wheel is waiting to be liberated, allowing him to give here the impulse in that part. In that time, with this locking stone, this wheel is blocked and cannot turn, giving space up here for his impulse-taking palette to pass through without any difficulty. This idea brought the breakthrough and allowed Daniels to make his well-known space traveler watches that he equipped with this independent double-wheel escapement. When you know about Georges Daniels, and if you have read a few of his books, you find phrases and statements from his side that he considered this as to be the best escapement he can imagine. Knowing this, of course, you will ask immediately, so why he made the co-axial, if that one is the best? And he gives the answer directly. He says, it is the best, but it is so difficult in tolerances. It's so tight. He was happy that he could put it to his big pocket watches, the space travelers. But he thought and stated that never ever it will be possible to miniaturize it in that way because of those tight tolerances. So he thought it never ever will fit a wristwatch. So why did Daniels assume that the tolerances for this escapement were too narrow? With lever escapements, as we could see in the slide up front, and as you know, you have the impulse pallets in the anchor who are laying in the same layer as the anchor itself. So you can push them fore and back to adjust it. And this is different here. Here you see that the stones, here the first waiting pallet, as we call it, and here the two resting pallets, they are standing perpendicular, they are standing upright in the anchor or in the detent, however you want to name it. Therefore, whenever you put them in, they are at place, you cannot correct anything. And what you see here, you see that he has round openings where he press in his stones, and then he is turning his pallet stones to adjust them. They are in a fixed position, but they need to be put to the right angle. To do this in those little tiny pieces, in such a microscopic small stone, that is really, really difficult, nearly impossible. And this is why he thought that it never may fit a wristwatch. So the challenge, what we thought we would have, is to find a solution how to place those pallet stones seriously always into the same position. And if the next slide may come. Well, but first, let's have a look how his system is working. You see very nice how alternately the wheels are stopped while another wheel is giving the energy to the balance. Having only one wheel, the acceleration, of course, is much, much quicker. So his loss is extremely less than it was at Breguet. And that is how his escapement is working. Voila. And here you see now our development. You see that we shape the stones in their final form, and we had to find a solution how to place them always in the very exact same position, put them exactly upright, and for the reason of eventual after-sale services, we have to be sure that also when we make spare components, you can interchange them, everything fits and is on the perfect place. So how we did that? We shape here a big block. You see that it's more thick than the rest, where the stone is fitted in, and it is kept in its position with a little elastic component behind here. He is pressing the stone to the front, so therefore we have always the very exact position. And when those stones are positioned, then we put a little bit of glue here behind, so the elastic arm is not elastic anymore and keeps the stone there where it belongs. We also tried to press those stones in, because today you can manufacture the component so precise, but here we have uneven surfaces, and if you try to press in an uneven surface, the friction always is much bigger there where you have the smaller surface, so automatically the stones will twist and they will not stand upright anymore. When you make the opening only a little bit bigger, the stones would fit in quite correctly. you have to cement them, and when you put a glue or whatsoever to cement them, you also have the risk of a tight, little bit incorrect positioning. So all this, even the most precise you manufacture the components, will never work. This is until, for us now, we found that solution. Maybe there are others. We don't search anymore. We found what is fine for us. To work on escapements is, however, not only to find solutions like this here, that you can put the stones where they should be and therefore overcome the comment of Georges Daniels that the tolerances are too tight. Developing on escapements, I compare a little bit with an escape game. Whenever you overcame one problem, you have the right to go to the next room, but you do not know what is waiting there for you. And therefore, also, we had this escape game to play, and the next step was to rise up the frequency from 2 Hertz, as Daniel was using in pocket watches. Of course, we need 3 Hertz to fit for wristwatches to have serious working pieces. So when you speed up the balance, you have an effect that the balance is so much quicker that what you could see here, the escape wheel runs behind, it just reach out at the very end, the impulse taking palette, and therefore is missing all the space of transmission only at the very end, like if Mike Tyson tells you, boom, here you have to go. Yeah? So it's not the most comfortable way. We thought how we can overcome this, and there is a very logic solution. You lose some angle in the transmission of the energy, so the idea, of course, is to simply lift up, and you will see that now here, to lift up the position of those impulse-taking palettes. No, he does not want. Now he wants to lift them up. Voilà. So when you lift them up, we will see directly on the video down under what is the difference, what is the result when you do this. You see, voilà, we have a soft contact, we have a soft transmission of energy that works perfectly well. This works well just for a certain time. This works well when you can assure that you have always the same amplitude in your balance, when you always have, let's say, 300 degrees or 270 degrees. But as soon as you have a low amplitude, you will face again a very uncomfortable situation. You will see that the wheel, what has its own speed, and it keeps its speed, but if the balance has a low amplitude, she is very, very slow. So the wheel will be quicker than the balance, and what happens then, we will have a look. It is a little bit to be compared with in the Olympic Games, or voilà, in every sport event where you have, how you call it, the relay. And therefore, let's have a little look what we can observe there.
Imagine for one moment the energy of an Olympic race. The runner with the baton represents the escapement wheel, carrying the inertia forward, while the balance wheel stands poised to receive it. In a relay, that handover of the baton is everything. It requires perfect synchronization. Only when both runners reach a flawless harmony can the transmission of energy flow without a single mist. And when that happens, when everything aligns, the energy flows seamlessly, creating a powerful combination that reaches near perfection. But what happens if there's a fraction of a second's difference? What if there's a brief hesitation? Then the magic breaks, the energy falters, momentum is lost, and with it, precision is left behind. It's only through relentless training and true mastery that runners achieve this perfect relay, each impulse passed with unbreakable accuracy. In the art of horology, each beat is a tribute to mastery, because true precision isn't just measured, it's achieved.
I think that's a very nice comparison. And what happens in the watch, what I said, if the balance is too slow, but the escape wheel maintains its given speed, the impulse transmitting tooth has already passed the planned transfer point before the impulse taking pallet arrives there. The escapement wheel has not been able to transfer its energy and now has to dissipate the abruptly when it hits the resting jewel. If the entire energy of the escape wheel is not transferred to the balance, but is destroyed on the resting pallet, that leads, as we spoke already, with the overcoil to destroying the little tips of the teeth of the escape wheels. So we have to find a solution that prevents this and allows at the same time to keep the impulse-taking pallet to remain in its ideal position. So the question is, how can we avoid the problem of low amplitudes? Unfortunately, the answer is not at all. Because low amplitudes occur again and again, they cannot be prevented. But even if you can't prevent them, we can try at least to minimize them. One company took a very interesting way by shortening the running time of their watches in such a way that the watches only work as long as the force for the mainspring barrels is great enough to ensure high amplitudes. After a fixed quantity of hours, a special mechanism stops the balance. This prevents, very logically and very clever, all low oscillation amplitudes that naturally occur towards the end of the power reserve. However, we wear our watches on our wrist, and humans tend to move with the wrist, sometimes even quite strong. As a result, it happens that the oscillation amplitude is suddenly greatly reduced. Everybody who looks sports for sure once saw very dramatic scenes. Playing tennis, you know that scene when Nadal is wearing a very expensive watch. But this is quite a small impact because you are in a movement where you continuously move your arm. That is nothing than a nice massage to your watch. The moment where it really affects the watch is a moment what many people don't expect. This is when you are well dressed, when you don't sweat. That is when you are in the evening in the opera. The opera finish, you rise up for standing ovation and you start clapping hands. This is the most stressful for each and every wristwatch. One told me it's not true. The most stressful is when you play cards and you bump the cards to the table. Okay, we can discuss that, but these are the moments that are really the real stress. And then, for sure, again, you have those low amplitudes. And this is what we try to find a solution, how to make the watch what we tried to put to the market, to bring it to the point that it is reliable in all situations. I don't want to give to you a watch where I say, it's a nice wristwatch, but please keep it on the table. You should be able to wear it and to know for sure it is working, there is no failure. So how can we stop this push in front of the escape wheel during low amplitudes that inevitably occur in our watches. I've chosen the word push in front rather than missing each other, because this is where the solution lies. You do it exact the same way as you do at the ski lift queue, by placing an obstacle, a barrier in the way. So here you see our waiting palette. We call it this because there the escape wheel here on the left side, the pointer does not, here the pointer. Yeah. Normally that escape wheel is waiting here on the pallet. Now it wants to be released, but there is an obstacle in its way. It is this little additional lifting surface. And this lifting surface, this is forcing our detent. I try to click here. Voila. So what you see here, now this tooth went down this lifting surface, what you see on the point number 1, and by this he turned, of course, our detent in a way that forced by the ellipse, here in the fork the ellipse had been turned as well, and by this here the impulse taking palette is for sure in front of the impulse giving tooth. And by this we can always be sure the escape wheel has no chance to jump in front of the balance. And this is how it works. And what was quite nice for us, it was not expected, but what we could find out is that this little surface, when you have a low amplitude, it helps to lift up the amplitude, like when you switch on a turbo ladder in your car. It accelerates enormously the balance, and we are very, very quick again back on a high amplitude, where then the whole escapement again is 100% direct impulse escapement. And it allows us, of course, to place the impulse taking pallets as high as possible without any risk. So what we made is a very little tiny additional surface, but the effect of it is tremendous and allows to wear the sport for each and every sport activity, whatever you can imagine. Yeah, and by this, it was quite a long time sorry. Yeah, I just want to show you a little bit now impressions from our movement, how you can see it working in reality. And what I like very much on those videos is you cannot retouch anything. All what you see here is as it is. There is no Photoshop behind, and therefore I love it very much. And as a result, of course, I can confirm the idea of Breguet, to put two detent escapements, to mirror them one against each other, was a really, really genius idea. He only was unlucky that he did not have the idea of Daniel's. That would have been enough for him to succeed, and to bring a real natural escapement in a working way to the market. What we are proud at Lederer Timepieces is, of course, that we succeeded to put the dream of Breguet into wristwatches. And allow me to show you a few little impressions from our workshop, where you can see the love with which people are working, not only me. You see here the shaping of the angles. We don't machine them up front. They are all angled out from the mass, then polished, cleaned. At the end you will see how they are cerclés. A young Italian watchmaker, completely fascinated in his work. He started as a watchmaker and found his fascination. Look, the perfect polishing on the angles, what he is making. That is really a pleasure to work with those people. Yeah, so far my little discourse through the escape games of Escapements. Are there any questions left over, what I could not answer, what you still would like to know about? Yes, first of all, thank you for your patience. It was nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernhard, for an incredible lecture. And we'll now open it up to questions from the audience. If anyone has a question, please raise your hand and I'll bring the microphone to you. We'll start back here.
Thank you. Hi, thank you for the talk. Really fascinating stuff. Could you talk a little bit about your decision to have two 10-second remontoirs to provide the energy, not 15, not 10, oh sorry, not 5. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know the real answer why I made it. I think it's a little bit in my nature that I search for perfection. And when we got the movement, the escapement really working, I confirmed what Daniel said. It is a most fascinating escapement. And when I had that in front of me, I thought, it deserves to be on the super top level. It deserves something close to constant force, and this is what a remontoire d'égalité gives you. For those who are not familiar with a remontoire égalité, it's a very tiny little spring, as close as possible to the escape wheel and as far away as possible from the escape wheel, not to disturb it, but as close as to give even energy to the escapement. And in our case, we placed it on the third wheel, and it's every 10 seconds a little spring is rearmed and giving its energy over 10 seconds to the escapement, and again rearmed. And just to see and to give you a comparison what it means, 10 seconds rewinding, we wind around 7 degrees, that little spring. If you take the main spring, there we turn 13 times 360 degrees. So you can imagine the difference in angle, and the angle where a spring goes through gives a variation of energy. And this we are evening down to the little angle of 7 degrees. And as we have the chance to have two separate independent movements in that watch, of course we use the chance to put those two 10-second remontoirs in an alternation of 5 seconds. And yeah, I wanted to really know everything about this escapement, and therefore I asked a company who is developing electronic devices, and they developed for us a little control machine with a laser. That is easy to do, but they developed the software what gives us every single amplitude. So every amplitude to the left, every angle to the right, the real angle, and not the average of a few. And there you can see it's a very slight rising up of the angle when one remontoire is rewound, and you see the angles going to the right side and you see the angles going to the left side. We have different colors, and you see the two lines of colors slightly shifting over those 10 seconds. And that is really, really interesting to see. It does not make the watch really recently more accurate, and that is not what we search for. And I would like really to take here the chance to make that very clear. I do not search for the most precise watches. That is not my idea. But I would like to show that with our hands, with clever reflections, we are able to make reliable timepieces. Even as a really small company, I could do it as a one-man show, but then I could not deliver to everybody who wants to have, so we have a few people working with us. But yes, we make it very artisanal, and however, we can deliver you watches that are stable over the whole power reserve, and this is a very, very important and big difference. I will quickly explain you why, and then I hope I could answer the question completely, why there is a sense for remontoire. I hope everybody here in this auditorium knows that a COSC certification allows you a failure of a total of 10 seconds per day. So -4 + 6 seconds. Imagine, close your eyes, go to your boat. If you don't have one, just imagine. If you are on the open sea, 1 second corresponds to nearly 500 meters. That is not that much. But if you take 10 seconds failure per day, you already have a failure of 5 kilometers. If you are with your boat 10 days crossing from Europe to America, you need a little bit more, but let's take the 10 days. And imagine you come into foggy weather and you have the risk of 50 kilometers fail indication, then you realize how important 1 second can be. And therefore, I decided to give to this escapement what it deserves. Therefore, we decided to put to this super turbo model the two 10-second remontoires.
With the remontoire spring not going through a big cycle of tight and unwound, does it risk the perhaps going set after a time? Losing its elasticity if it's only staying in a certain state of wind?
No. On a spring long like this, the 7 degrees of rearming, they are circular. If you would make the spring over the whole length, that would be maybe a quarter of a degree what you bench the spring. So there you are more than 100% in the elastic mode of any material. It will not lose its elasticity. No.
We'll go back here to the back of the room for the next question.
Hi, Bernhard. I was just wondering if you
Chris.
could share with us a little bit about, given the novel escapement, trying to get this COSC certified and what that involved. Like the COSC certification process and how it has a hard time dealing with a novel escapement like this.
Okay. So Chris already knows the story. So yeah, that it was in 2020 where I showed the first prototype of this watch. And of course, we had to give a name to that watch. And as in this particular escapement, the transmission of the energy is on the center line. It's not before, it's not after, it is really purely mathematiquement. No, that was French. By pure mathematics, it is the half is in front of the center line and the second half is behind center line. So by mathematics, by physics observation, we are on the center line. Therefore, we called it the central impulse chronometer. And I printed this on the dial of the prototype. And immediately we had been attacked and told that we may not call a watch a chronometer if it is not certified by an official institution. Today I know that was a wrong message. Of course I can call a chronometer a chronometer. I only may not put on official certified chronometer, what we did not. So anyhow, I just was afraid to have a lot of problems. So I said, no, that is a super escapement. If not this escapement, who else will pass those chronometer certifications? So we, of course, brought it to the COSC, to the official Swiss Chronometer Certification Institute, gave it to them and asked them to make the testing. And they started, and 3-4 days after starting, I got an email telling us, we are sorry, we cannot certify your watch. And I said, okay, that sounds strange. And I called them and asked what's going on, and they said, yeah, you know, and something strange with your watch. And so I digged a little bit deeper, and I found out that they developed a very special system. They only, on the COSC certification, and I did not know that in the beginning, you only have a second hand on one axis of your watch. You don't have a minute, not an hour indicator, only the second hand. Now imagine you give a watch what is even not working at all. As they take a picture, after 24 hours they take again a picture and then they compare the position of the second hand. A watch not working at all will be certified. A watch what is exactly 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 1 hour going wrong will be certified. Of course, they had to find a way how to avoid situations like that. And they developed a system because they have to make it really, they make thousands of movements what they control. So all is automatized. You say that? No? Automated, okay. All is automated, thank you. And they have a camera what is now observing the second hand and calculating during 2 minutes whether this speed of the second hand is fine to be after 24 hours on the correct time. Fine. But this camera was confused, respective not the camera, but the electronic system behind, because, as you learned, we have a chronometer escapement. And the particularity of every chronometer escapement is that you have a unidirectional liberating of the escape wheel. So a chronometer escapement only makes tick. It does not make tack. So they observe the second hand, and for the camera and for the system, it has to make tick and tack and tick and tack and tick and tack. But ours makes tick, 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 tick. So their system said, it works, it does not work, it works. No, it does not work, it works. No, it does not work. Okay, we don't understand it, put it to the side. This is what happened. Hopefully, this is a public institute. They are obliged to fulfill the request. So now they call, whenever we give them movements to certify, they call some students, and we are proud to tell that we have hand-certified chronometers. They have to do it the old style. They have a book where they note whenever they control it, and that is a very beautiful aspect in this whole story. Thank you, Chris, for that question.
Thank you very much for the lecture. First, I just want to point out that you're welcome to send your watches in to the Horological Society for certification. We also do chronometer certification the old-fashioned way. So
I know this, and there is a point where I have to say directly, and this in front of all of you, to Nick. He confirmed already that he will make something what all the others are not going to do. I told you that we are very proud that our watch is accurate from the first tick until it stops after the power reserve. And that is very important, and this is thanks to those remontoir égalité. We have what in a hospital everybody does not want to see. We have on our screens one continuous line. We don't have those variations what everybody who knows a Vichy machine knows about. We have just one line. And this is just the throughout the whole time, the same regularity, the same, I don't want to use the word precision. That is something different. We have the same regularity in our watches. And this Nick confirmed me that he will certify our watches with the control after every hour, and this through the whole power reserve. And that will be the first time that a watch will be certified hourly through a whole power reserve. And thank you, Nick, for being open to do that for us. Thank you.
nice. My question is about the escapement error associated with your escapement. I was wondering if you had calculated what the actual error at full amplitude was, and also how it might vary at that very low amplitude when you're getting that additional boost.
May I ask you again this question a little bit slower? That I captured. Don't forget, my teacher said I will not be able to answer.
Understood, and I'm also a New Yorker, so I might talk a little bit fast. My question was about the escapement error associated with your escapement. Every escapement has an error. The Swiss lever has a 12 seconds approximately error per day. Chronometer has maybe a 4 seconds, I'm not sure. I was wondering if you had calculated the error associated with your escapement and how it might vary from low amplitude to the high amplitude.
Yes, we did not calculate that. Those calculation formulas, what you can find in the literature, they are for lever escapements, but they may not fit for chronometer escapements, and especially not for a mirrored double chronometer escapement. But yes, of course, I can tell you that we have a little variation. Not every watch is the very same. We have variations from one movement to the next, but in average, a movement is around 2 to 3 seconds between low amplitude and high amplitudes. And also the amplitudes themselves, they have a variation between the different positions. You have all the vertical and then the horizontal positions, and there also we have when there is a little bit dirt in the stones, of course, then we have a big error. But if everything is in perfect condition, then we have between 2 to 4 degrees difference in amplitude, and that is something what is quite outstanding. And that is not our quality, that is the quality of that escapement. And therefore I said, Daniels was right when he said that really is something what is on top.
Had you thought about any exotic materials, silicium or any of these types of options?
No.
No?
No.
Why?
Alors, what we have here, what you see, the escape wheel, this is electroplated. That is not one of the very few pieces what we don't make in-house. We made the first watches with a titanium wheel, what we machined ourselves. It works perfect. It only has one little disadvantage. In those dimensions, we at least are not able to give a high polished surface to titanium wheels. And if you take care of all steel components, every axe, every screw, everything is reworked to perfection. You have super shiny polished surfaces, and then you have a gray mouse in between, and this mouse is one of the most important parts. That is not nice. And therefore we decided we will make this here with those nickel phosphor wheels that are manufactured outside. But everything like silicon has nothing for me to search in traditional watchmaking, because I want also to assure we have all the spare components. Every piece is documented in many ways, how to make it with all the tolerances, how to decorate it, which corn of the sandpaper we are using. So whenever we are not there anymore, everybody will be able to repair, to repeat what we have done to assure the long life of our watches, and therefore silicon, of course, is a no-go for us.
I have a question for you, Bernhard. You have done an incredible job with the natural escapement. Can you talk about what's next after the natural escapement? Is there, what are you looking at? What other escapements?
Yeah. Alors, before I will tell what will be the next one, I would like a little bit to tell why I do this. The story is many years ago, before I had the idea to become a watchmaker. I borrowed a book about watches, and in the foreword, the author was writing and explaining why he became a watch collector. And that story is the reason why I'm today here, why I became a watchmaker. And the story is really that I did not know, is it a nice fairy tale or is it truth? He was writing that his father allowed him from time to time to play a game with him. The game was very strange because the boy had the right to listen to one drawer of his daddy's office table, where always one pocket watch had been in, ticking. And he had to find out which one from the collection of his father is in the drawer. And when I was reading that, I really thought that cannot be. A watch is a watch, it makes tick-tack and that's it. So, but maybe I'm wrong. So, as a young boy, I started to run to flea markets, asking every dealer, as long as they allowed me, to wind up the watches what they are offering for sale, and then I listened with one ear here, and then compared it with another one, and back again. And yes, I can tell you, you have to train your ears, but yes, you can find out which escapement is in a pocket watch, just by the music of the escapement. And it took me so long time to find that out, to train my ears, that I already was infected by a virus, what stood with me all my life, and what I'm happy that I got that infection. Yeah, that is the reason why everything started, and that's the reason why it continues in that way. For me, watchmaking has only one interesting point, and these are the escapements. And I thought it's a little bit a pity that today we have 99 I don't know where % of all the watches are equipped with the standard Swiss lever escapement. And that is a little bit a pity. I compare that as, just imagine all your cars have the same, very solid, very reliable, but not at all sexy diesel machine. Huh? Something would be really missing out there. And this is what I feel is missed in the wristwatch. And as I learned watchmaking in a watch museum, I always was orientated to learn also what was in the past. And as we could see here, there had been really outstanding, great watchmakers, and they had super ideas. And a lot of them, like this idea of Breguet, they failed at their time. And there are out many ideas, they deserve to be put into spotlight, to be brought back to where they belong to, and this is what I'm going to do. So we designed already 5 escapements. One you saw already, then will come number 2 and number 3. They will be inspired by historic escapements that we redesign, we re-engineer them, we bring them to life in a way that you can wear them on the wrist. Number 4 and number 5 then will be, however, escapements that nobody before had the idea to do them this way. So we don't know yet if there will be escapement number 6, but for sure there will be a series of 5 completely different escapements that will come. I continue to answer your question because you asked what will be next. The next one will be an escapement. I don't know who will recognize what it is. It is a co-axial escapement, and it's a co-axial escapement what is considered to have at least inspired George Daniels very much to develop his co-axial escapement, what he saw to Omega, but the origin is from here. This is the invention of an American, German-born, of course I'm proud of that, German-born American watchmaker who bear the name Charles Fasold. And today, with this announcement, we open the books to inscribe, to subscribe. We will make a series of 20 watches only under subscription. And that will be the next. It will be delivered within 18 months from today on. And that is where we rework a watch that will be driven by the escapement what Charles Fasold developed. And just as a little bit clin d'oeil, twinkling with the eye, Charles is his American name. German name is the same like mine, it's Karl. So I'm proud as a Karl Bernhard Lederer to make the Karl Charles Fasold escapement, to bring it back to life and to bring it to the wrist.
Well, that is wonderful news, and I think that's a great way to conclude the evening. I think we can all give Bernhard a huge round of applause for his incredible lecture tonight.